and welcome back to my channel, the Everything You podcast. I'm Nicole, and today I'm going to be talking about gratitude. So I have had gratitude journals since 2020, so since COVID I've had gratitude journals, and they have honestly changed my entire life. And it's something that I want to talk about because I don't think many people understand exactly how gratitude changes lives and changes people's outlooks on things, but it really has changed mine. And I've got 5 books. I'm on my 5th gratitude journal. I took them off my bookshelf just now. The one that I'm actually actively using sits on my my coffee table. I probably want a cocktail, and the others are on the bookshelf because that chapter in my life is done. So I'll just talk you through them. So whenever I get them, I always get them from Papier. It's the tradition since 2020. So it's actually coming up to 5 years of gratitude. How weird is that? It's insane. Whenever I say COVID, I think, wow, that was actually 5 years ago now. So when people say, oh yeah, it was COVID, I'm like, that was a long time ago, bro. It was such a long time ago. So yeah, these are the books that I have at the moment. So you can see I always get them personalised because I'm a geek like that. And I get a different pattern and a different colour to what I've got before. This is the one that I'm on now. And it's, this is the one that I've got now. And yeah, it's a tradition that's been going on for such a long time. And every different book represents a different chapter in my life, essentially. And I'll talk you through each of them. But the way that I came about doing it was that we all had a lot of time to spare in 2020. Most of us did. And it actually worked out quite well for me because it meant that I'd been working a busy job up until everything closed down in March. I was frantically trying to save for a deposit to buy a flat or a house, and I was working crazy hours. I was getting up at like 4:30 in the morning, coming home at like 9:30, and then doing it all again 5 days a week, and then going in the 6th day to do like a few, quite a short day, but still. And it was relentless for, I think I was there for, in total, 4 years, but by the time 2020 rolled around, I've been doing it for 3 years, 2 or 3 years. And I was knackered, actually. I was really upset when they said, like, we're closing the gyms down. So for background, I was a personal trainer at this time. So this is way before I started my business. But I always knew that I wanted to go out on my own and work for myself. And I was really upset when they closed the gyms down because I was like, I've been trying to get this deposit. I was like living at home with my mum and dad. And, while it was great, I was 30 and I was like, I need to get my own place. All my friends were living in their own homes, whether they bought them or they were renting. And I just felt like I was lagging behind. I really felt like I was falling behind in life, essentially. I was still living it felt like a teenager's life. When you live with someone, you live with their rules and you live with their way of life, which, is quite tricky when you are in your 30s and you're supposed to be in the middle of your own life and your own journey, So I found it quite challenging in that sense, just mentally. But 2020 gave me time to slow down, and we were actually placed on furlough from the gym that I was working at. So we were still getting paid, so I didn't lose out on saving my money for my deposit, so that was great. But it gave me a lot of time to think about what I wanted the next few years to look like. And I actually, during that time, I went through a breakup, and it was the first person I'd been with for years who I really liked or thought loved or whatever. And the breakup happened probably around June time. And I was really upset, obviously, really upset. I think we'd only been together for like 6 months or like, so it wasn't like a big thing, but I was really upset. And so, anything that comes in to your life, I'm the kind of person that was looking for meaning. I was like, what's happening? What does this mean? What do I need to do? And the first thing that I did was the Deepak Chopra's, I can't remember what it was called now. It was Abundance. I think it was like however many days of abundance, and it was in a group chat, and someone added me to this group, and you had a series of tasks that you had to do every day, and you had to also write, I think you had to write what you were grateful for and upload it to the group or something like that. And I really, really enjoyed that. I was doing loads of yoga anyway. I always have some spiritual sense, so that was always knocking around. But I really, really enjoyed it, and it helped me to think about things on a bit of a deeper level, more of a spiritual level. And so I think from that, I was looking for something a little bit more. So the first thing that I did was I read The Secret. So I'd read The Power a couple of years before, and that got me into a bit of journaling, and not necessarily journaling, but goal setting. That got me into more goal setting. And The Secret was, it was just a little bit different. It was kind of giving you the whole background on manifestation and the power of spirituality and your thoughts, and moving things forward yourself and having that power. And then I read The Magic. So all 3 books are by Rhonda Byrne. So The Secret, The Magic, and The Power. So Magic was the last one I read. And one of the challenges was at the end of every chapter, I think you had to write what you're grateful for, or I think you might have had to do like a daily blessings or something like that. And so I really, really enjoyed it. And I think it really helped me to transform my thoughts, especially when, it was mid-COVID. I hadn't achieved what I'd wanted to achieve yet. And I'd also just gone through a breakup. So it gave me something to really shift my thought process and my patterns to my advantage, basically. So that later on that year, so I actually got back into acting. I'm also an actor as well. I need to do like an about me thing, I think, because people fresh to the channel are not going to know anything about me. And I'm like, oh yeah, because of this. And they were like, what? So I got back into acting in quite a big way. Did a really, really powerful project that I loved. And it was one of the best things that I've done, I think, ever, to be honest. Really amazing cast, really amazing crew. It was an indie film that we shot in COVID. So we basically had so much more scope in terms of locations, and everyone was free. It was just so good. So I got back into that, started doing some presenting as well off the back of that, and just started coming into my own in terms of making sure that I was really nurturing my creative side whilst I was still working for, the fitness side of things and moving my life forwards in terms of the goals that I had with the house purchase, etc., etc. So just to backtrack a little bit. So the first book that I got, I think it was this one. So this is what I ordered from Papier, and it just says on it, Nick's Gratitude Journal. And it's just funny, like looking back through it, I would just write down, I think I started off writing streams and streams and streams, I don't know if you can see it, but streams and streams every day. And I would always write, and this is pretty true for how I do it now as well. I would always write, I'm grateful for my health. That would always be like number one. I'd write, I'm grateful for my family, my friends, for, having somewhere to live, all of those things. And then as the list goes on, I go into more specific things and more recent things that I'm grateful for. So it might have been things that have happened yesterday or over the weekend or whatever it is. And so this book, I remember, this was me getting back into acting, and also going into singing a bit more as well. I met a couple of guys on the film project that I was doing in the summer, and we did a demo. So they wrote, they were composers, they wrote a musical, and they asked me to do the female voices on it, which I did. We had such a good time doing it. It was so much fun. I also introduced them to a friend of mine, one of my best friends, and it was just a great project. So he did all the male voices, I did all the female voices, and we just had like the best time ever doing it. So I think to round up that year, it was kind of getting back into creativity and really taking ownership of where I was at that point, and not looking at things through the lens of I haven't achieved what I wanted to achieve, and just accepting, doing what I could and moving forward. So when the gyms reopened again, I think the summertime, then I just cracked on, got on with, doing everything. But I also made a lot of time for creativity, auditioning, film projects, and acting, singing projects as well. So that was great. I think the next book that I've got, the next one was this one. So this one is 2021, I want to say. I think it was the end of 2020 because I just had a flashback to my first solo trip, my first solo holiday to Italy. I went to Venice, and I actually planned to go to Turkey, but you know, in COVID, when they were doing all this red list, green list, amber list, you can't go here, you can go there. If you go on somewhere on the red list, you have to quarantine for 2 weeks, and obviously no one can do that, everyone's got jobs, and it was just ridiculous. So anyway, Turkey actually went on the red list because everyone was trying to grab chances to go on holiday when they could, and I ended up going to Venice, and it was so beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. And the reason why I remembered that is because I remember taking this book with me and writing in it whilst I was away. And first solo trip, it was a bit weird because it was like I was staying in like a hotel. It was a holiday, so it was like couples and families, and you know, like the guy that I was with at the time was like, you've not done solo traveling. You have, but you've gone on like a holiday, so it was a bit weird. And I was like, yeah, it's a bit weird actually, but it was really insightful and it was great. Also part of this is when my grandma got really unwell, and I remember doing a lot of writing as to wanting her to get better and trying to shift my gratitude for her pulling through the illness. So this was that one, 2020, end of 2020 to 2021. And then the next one, I think, is this one. And this was, I can see already in here, I was writing a lot about my grandma and her hoping that she'd pull through the illness. Unfortunately, she passed away. So that is, between this book and this book, those are the things that are kind of heavily resonating with me when I think back to these books. But the thing that is nice with this is that I can look at each book and I can know exactly what chapter of my life it was. And I think that's why I've geared towards different patterns. So making sure that they are different colours and different patterns, they're really vibrant, because I just know, look at the bookshelf, I'm like, oh, I can just open that out. And it's really nice, and a little bit of a wanky way, but it's nice to see where you've come from, to think, oh, okay, that's where I was in 2020. Now this is 2025, this is where I am, and this is insane. Like, it's insane when I think about the journey that I've been through. And also, during this time, I moved into my flat where I'm living now. So I bought my flat. I was really happy. I was completely over the moon. And I also, as I just stumbled across another bit, I also quit my job at the gym and started my own business. So I started a mentorship, a business mentorship, and I just saw that I'd wrote, I'm grateful for that mentorship. So that means that all of that had happened in here. And it was just a really pivotal time. I remember the summer, I think this is 2021 to 2022, and the summer of 2022 was absolutely insane. It was so good. I travelled so much. I was working for myself. It was just, I remember being out all the time, but not like out as in like a party way, but a bit obviously a party way, but mainly just out and just enjoying and going to events and festivals, and it was just so good, and travelled loads as well. So that's what resonates with this. This was my buying my flat, starting my own business, and kind of coming into my own life, which is what I wanted to do back in 2020, but I felt like I was a bit stuck up until I read The Magic. And then the next one is this one, the heart one. So really, really funny actually. So this one makes me think of my first solo trip, my first long haul solo trip, which is where I went to Bali for 4 weeks. And it also makes me think of my other solo trip, the big one that I did to Colombia, Ecuador and Peru. I took this with me as well. So I think it spanned quite a long time because I wasn't writing in it as frequently as I had before. So I'd gone the first book 2020 to 2021, 2021 to 22, 2022 to 23. And then this one spanned basically 2023 to 2024. So if I look at it at the beginning, I was still with the mentorship that I wanted. I was still striving for something. I'd also got a nice TV job as well that I went and filmed in Belgium. So that's what's happening at the beginning. And at the end is where I'd actually it was the back end of last year, and I'd actually left the first business mentorship and moved on to the second. And it actually meant that my my revenue for my business completely skyrocketed, which was insane. Like that's the reason why I went with the second business mentorship, but I was not expecting what happened. I was like, wow, it was insane. So really, really big leap in this book. And also as well, like I'd really wanted some long-term love to come into my life as well. So that's why I chose a heart cover. I was like, right, I'm choosing that one. So funny. So yeah, so that did happen at the end of 2024. The middle of 2024. I met somebody in a relationship now, which is really lovely. And yeah, it's really funny with these books because I feel like they kind of, everyone has control of their own lives, whether we like to think of it that way or we don't. I feel like these books show me how much I'm mapping out my journey and where I want to go, especially when I look at them like this, because I've changed so much from the first book to the fourth. That is just, I would never have thought that, I'd never have thought, I did always want to have my own business. I always wanted to travel lots. I always wanted to meet somebody where I felt like, you have that deep sense of connection, and, you want something to really grow into something really amazing. But yeah, I just never thought, it's just funny, isn't it? When I look back here, I wasn't thinking as far ahead to here, obviously. And then this is the one that I'm on now. So when I was choosing the cover for this book, these are my problems, guys, like choosing which cover book to go for. But yeah, I was choosing between this one, and there was one that was more like a tile pattern. And so in my head, I was like, right, that's telling me I can either go for travel or settling down and buying a home, like another home. And so I chose the travel one because obviously I've got a home that I really love. And I do want to buy another one, which is going to be happening the end of this year. But it's been a real journey with this one. I've started therapy again. I started it in October. September, October I started it. And it's really, really, obviously really insightful. And it's helped me to really navigate my thoughts and to understand my behaviours and my thought patterns. They relate it quite closely back to your family as well. So they ask you a lot about your relationships with your mum and your dad, your sister, or my sister. But it is really, really good. And I think that's what, when I look at this book, even though it's obviously the closest one to me now, it really shines, that therapy light really shines through. So I'm halfway through this book actually. And I've been writing in it a lot more regularly than the others. So this one, if I look at the beginning, I'd started swimming again, swimming lessons. What else did I do? I'm trying to think actually. It's quite recent, so it's kind of, those are the things that kind of stick out. So yeah, I was having quite a big bout of anxiety, I think, when I started this book. And that's one of the things. It was like I was writing, I'm grateful for reducing my anxiety. And the thing with the gratitude is, and just to explain about what it is, why I believe it works, and the more scientific way that you can look at it if you're not as woo as I am. So I find that obviously you can write what you're grateful for as is. So I'm grateful I have a roof over my head. I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful for my business. I'm grateful for my boyfriend. I'm grateful for whatever it is. But you can also write gratitude for things that you are potentially nervous about or anxious about, things that haven't happened yet, but you want to steer them in a positive direction. So when I was writing about my anxiety, I was in the throes of it, really making big waves in my life, and I didn't want that to happen. I wanted to be able to navigate it and control it. And so I started writing, I'm really grateful for reducing my anxiety. And I did the same thing when my grandma was unwell. Obviously, I feel like it's the one thing, not the one thing, but it's one of the things where I'm like, I don't understand death. So I can't say, oh, like this works for everything, blah, blah, but obviously that's something that's completely out of anyone's hands. So at that time I was writing, I'm grateful for grandma getting better and making a full recovery. I'm grateful for her coming out of hospital. So you can manipulate it in that way. And I think actually sometimes it's a coping mechanism rather than looking at it as being outcome driven. But that is what I do. And I think I try to do it most mornings because I find that it really shifts my thoughts for the day, because it helps you to understand what you have and to be grateful for what you have, but then also to think forward about where you want to go and which direction you want your life to go in, and also to know that you do have control and you do have autonomy over what you're doing, even though sometimes emotions can get the best of us, illness can get the best of us, other people's the way that other people are towards us can get there's so many different factors. But if we know where our mindset is and we know what we're working for, we know what we've got, and not in a material sense, but the people around us, the support systems that we have, or if we don't have much of a support system, the support system that we would love to have, and the support system that we have within ourselves as well. I find that gratitude, fitness, and not manifestation, positive affirmations, those things really anchor me, and food really anchor me into myself. So I know that no one can take any of those things away from me at all. And wherever I am, I can always anchor down to those things in order for me to really reconnect with myself and to move forward with any challenge that I face at that time. So whenever I've traveled, I've always taken my gratitude journal with me, because I'm like, I need to have this here as a sense of, almost like a sense of home, or a sense of safety, like an anchor that kind of just reconnects you to yourself. And it's like, okay, I know what I'm doing, I know why I'm doing this. Especially when I was solo traveling, it was quite challenging actually. The last big trip I went on, I went to so I said, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, and absolutely beautiful, such a beautiful trip. Peru was my favorite, but I had a really tough time in Colombia because I didn't factor in that I didn't speak the language. Like, I just did not factor that in, and that was just a crazy sense of privilege that I'd never really had to think about before. So even like when I've been to Asia, like everywhere I've been in Asia, everyone speaks English, and I've not had to really think about it. Pretty much everywhere I've been, people speak English, but in Colombia, they were just like, sorry, I don't understand. Like, no, I don't know what you're saying. And it was just very like, and I was like, and if you're there by yourself, it's quite there's that, and also there was no black people really where I was most of the time, and I was just like, this is just really crazily isolating. By the time I got to Peru though, like Ecuador was okay, but then there was a terrorist attack. So everyone was just kind of dipping out of Ecuador. Everyone was like, see ya. So I flew to Peru early, but it was just, it was beautiful. It was like one of my favorite places. It was absolutely gorgeous. Met some really cool people. But throughout the journey, I remember I was in Ecuador, I was really scared because I was thinking, shit, like, what am I going to do if there's like a terrorist attack? Like, what am I actually gonna, like, I've never experienced anything like that at all. So anyway, what I did is I was glad that I had this, because I was like, okay, I know why I'm doing this. I was mid-trip, I was thinking, why have I come away by myself, like in January, like why have I done this? But actually, I was glad that I did, and it was nice to have a sense of myself there and a strong sense of self. And I don't think I would have had that much of a strong sense of self without my little gratitude journal. So that is what I do. That is my practices, and I really appreciate them. And it's nice to look back in yourself in a pretty self-indulgent way and just review where you've come from and think about where you're going next and get excited about it. So yeah, thank you for watching. I hope you found that useful. Any questions, drop in the comments below. But yeah, don't forget to subscribe and look out for many more interviews with my clients, and also videos like this where I'm just kind of talking more about mindset, mental health, all things fitness and food,